Welcome to the Real Estate Pros Show, where we interview real estate investing professionals from coast to coast, as well as the service providers that serve the real estate investing industry. Our goal is simple: share what's working now to help you improve and scale your business to the next level and meet the pros that can help you get there. Real Estate Pros is powered by Investor Fuel, America's leader in helping real estate investors and professionals build the business you need to live the life you've always dreamed of. Let's start today's show. Property insurance for real estate investors doesn't have to be difficult, but it does need to be there to protect you when you need it. MyInvestorInsurance.com not only provides insurance at 15 to 30% cheaper than traditional agencies, it's built specifically for real estate investors like you. You can set up an account in about 2 minutes, get quotes on properties, turn on and turn off insurance for your fix and flip or rental properties in around 2 minutes without having to talk to anyone directly, all through our portal. There's no better way or faster way to make sure you've got the coverage you need to protect you, and no more lengthy policies either. Once you're set up, you're billed monthly and prorated by the day for however long your policy is active. It's powered by MSI, the third largest independent MGA, with 1.5 million customers and more than $1 billion in cumulative premiums written. Get set up today in about 2 minutes at myinvestorinsurance.com/fuel.
Welcome back to the show, guys. I'm your host, Brett McCollum, and I'm here today with Quinn Skierski. And today we're going to be talking about the 5 F's. Before we do, guys, at Investor Fuel, we help real estate investors, service providers, and real estate entrepreneurs to 2 to 5x their businesses to allow them to build the businesses they've always wanted and allow them to live the lives they've always dreamed of. Without further ado, Quinn, how are you, man?
I'm doing great, Brett. How are you today?
Good, man. Good catching up with you pre-show. I've known you for a number of years now, so I'm genuinely excited to get to do this call with you today, man. Definitely a lot to unpack for sure.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yep.
Well,
Glad
for
to be here.
those of us
Thank you.
that don't know you, give us a little history, give us some background. Who's Quinn Skierski?
All right. Well, I am 6th generation. My granddaughter's 8th generation, Swanee County, um, on my mama's side. Um,
That's Suwannee County,
I
Florida, y'all.
yes, yeah, the real Florida, pine trees, not palm trees. um, Yeah, everybody thinks they're in Florida if they go past. Once you get south of Gainesville and south, that's not Florida anymore. So there's
I
very little
agree.
Florida left down there. So, yep. So, but I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. I started my first storefront business when I was 14 years old, a skateboard and bicycle shop, and then went into car audio from there. At 20 years old, bought my first 2 real estate properties, my personal home and another house by mistake in the same week at 20. And that's a whole nother story. Two crazy stories actually added together. So it's pretty wild. And my dad brought me a book one day. He was a real estate agent and a broker. My parents had been in real estate and business, when I was growing up. He brought me a book, No Money Down, by one of the late night TV show guys, gurus at the
Bob
time.
Allen.
And yeah, and um my dad came over and handed me the book and he's like, read this, it'll never work. I was like, oh, okay. Of course, I was like 21, 22, 23 years old, never read a book in my life, graduated high school with like a 1.6. I was just at school to meet customers and make money. So, and I was selling stereos. And so anyway, I got at 20, got into real estate. One day, after reading that book, like around the same time I read that book, I was working at my uncle's pawn shop at the time. And the building inspector walks in. He says, "Quinn, I did you a favor today." And I said, "How's that, Mr. Paul?" He said, "I condemned the house next door to you." I was like, "Condemned? I heard that. I remember reading that in a book. That book I just finished." It's like how to buy properties for no money down. So anyway, bought the house next door to me for $8,000. Invested 12,000 in the rehab, refinanced it for 40, rented out for 400 a month. It was cash flowing from day one. you know,
Wow.
Lots of mistakes, totally done wrong, all that kind of stuff. And my point in saying it, the mistakes, is that it's imperfect action versus no action at
Right.
all.
Yeah.
Just keep. You gotta keep moving.
Stop living on an island and join the #1 mastermind in America for professional real estate investors. Investor Fuel is a community of hundreds of the nation's top investors working together to build stronger businesses and better lives. In addition to the amazing community of real estate investors acting as a board of advisors for one another, Investor Fuel members have access to 100% funding on purchase and repairs for our members only, a health insurance program, and benefits and discounts that more than pays for the membership of most of our members, meaning it's actually costing you money to not be a member of Investor Fuel. If you're looking to scale your business and build a business that allows you to live the life of your dreams, please visit investorfuel.com today and book a call with our team.
Yeah.
And so had a couple of storefront business. By the time I was 30, I had 5 storefront businesses, hired my first, had my second child.
I don't think I knew that, actually.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had a car stereo shop, a auto body repair shop, a car wash. I built a mini storage warehouse with 131 units. Had a candy machine vending business. It was crazy.
Dang, man.
Every chance I got to open something, do something, I was like, let's start another business with that.
Yeah.
And I don't recommend that whatsoever, but there again, imperfect action, but it was action nonetheless, but it was not profitable.
Right.
And I hired my first business coach, which is, probably, something like an Investor Fuel person that would meet behind the scenes or something like that. And he was a local guy, but I hired him. He came in. He said, I hired him to help me run my PDA so I could just organize my life. Found out through him that I was spending about, 80 hours a week at my work, 40 hours a week at my church. Had no time for my family, no time for for anything else, on top of that. And just crazy, all over the place. He had me write down my time, which was that part of it, and then he had me write down my the money and where I got money at, and I started writing it all out. And towards the end of me, I wrote all the 5 businesses I had. Well, I put this little old circle down at the bottom and said REI, real estate investing, and I put 1 hour a month and $1,000 for that hour. And he said, I went back, gave him all my stuff. He said, hey, what are you going to do with this? This one business is losing $80,000 in 2 years. Of course, that means I'm robbing it from one of these other businesses. He's like, what are you
Right.
going to do with that? I said, I'm going to sell it, dismantle it, burn it down, whatever I got to do. I'm out. It's like, that's enough, And he said, okay, that's great. And then towards the end of our conversation, we went to lunch and he says, hey, can I buy you lunch sometime? I'd really like to talk about this REI thing there. And I'm thinking, this is the smartest guy I know right now. He just saved me so much time, energy, and effort. And he's asking me about this little old piece at the bottom, which is my real estate investing. And, we had bought a few properties by that point. We had flipped a house to a local government agency. We had flipped a commercial building to the sheriff's department, to the county. We had, done a few things. We had turned, a small amount of money into a lot of money pretty
Right.
quickly at that time. Like a couple $100,000 in, just a couple of years. And he was serious. He wanted to meet about this real estate investing thing that I was doing. And so I started thinking, and so anyway, he comes in and starts talking to me about it. And I decided at that point that I had just read Rich Dad Poor Dad as well,
Mm-hmm.
and realized that I had all this inventory on the shelves, like radio, my car stereos and stuff like that in my stereo shop. And that inventory was no different than a house. Like, it was cheaper, had
Sure.
less zeros, it's $200 radio instead of a $200,000 house or $20,000 house.
Mm-hmm.
But I just realized it was inventory, and why am I not treating my real estate like a business? I was treating it like this is what I'll do someday kind of thing, or my retirement accounts or my whatever. And so that was 2002. By December 31st, 2004, I closed down or sold my last storefront.
Okay.
And I sold that, owner financed my business to an employee. And
If you're looking for consistent, high-quality leads, look no further than Investor Machine. Investor Machine isn't just another agency, it's the most sophisticated, data-driven lead generation company on the planet for real estate investors, and serves the role of being not just a lead generator for your business, but a marketing partner that is helping you achieve your goals along the way. Go to investormachine.com to learn more and schedule a call with our team today.
Got out of the car audio business, which was my favorite business ever. I love, giving people, a product they love and want and, desire and all that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
which was the same reason I hated the auto body repair business. They wrecked their car. They didn't want it. They didn't intend for this to happen. That wasn't,
Right.
something they planned for. So, yeah. So that was, first launch into real estate full time was in 2005. So I took off about 3 months, reconnected with my family for a little bit because my wife and I've been married almost 11 years at that point, and we we had uh, we had just been on go the whole time,
Yeah.
and in March of 2005, I started, I had read somewhere about sending out postcards and letters and all that. Well, back up just a little bit. 2003, I was on Rich Dad Poor Dad's blog posts back then.
Uh-huh.
And I'm reading through the blog posts and I find this Utah's, 300 posts or whatever. Everybody keeps talking about this Utah's, and it was basically about wholesaling. It wasn't called wholesaling then when I read it, but we were looking for foreclosed properties that had equity was all.
Right.
That
Right.
was the gist of it, And I was like, okay, I can do that. Well, I had found 5 or 10 properties in Swanee County, and I had one of the letters shoved between my seats, and I kept driving by the house because I knew it was on my way to work almost. It was just a little ways out of the way, and so kept driving by there. I was afraid to stop by. I didn't want to mail the letter. I wanted to drop it off in person. Well, one day I drive by there and I see the person's home in their driveway with the it was a yellow Volkswagen Bug. The trunk is open on the car, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is
I'm gonna
I
do
can't
it.
stop. I'm afraid. Like I'm not. Yeah, that was like, oh crap. I put it. I just in the middle of the road, put it in reverse, backed up, pulled into the driveway. And she's got to be
Hmm.
freaking out. You're like, who is this? And so I walk up there. I was like, hey. I said, um, yeah,
This
I
might be
know her.
weird.
Of course, I know everybody.
Oh,
Yeah, and I'm like, yeah. I mean, we know who each other are. We don't know each other. And I'm like, hey. I said, I'm always, I'm looking for a house to buy. You know, investment. I don't know what I'm doing. And I said that. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just, just be honest. That's people like honesty. And so I was like, but I'm looking for, she's like, well, I'm fixing to lose this house. It's in foreclosure. We're just going to let it go. I was like, well, great. What do you want for it? She's like, I don't know. Whatever we owe on it. We just don't want to have to pay for it. It's like, okay. And, yeah, so I put that property under contract, a whole bunch of mistakes, ended up selling it, making like $6,600 on the house, which was, to me that was the biggest deal I had done at the time as far
sure.
as profit. And because I'm selling car audio, and
Because it ain't a $200 radio. Exactly.
that's right. Yeah. So that was 2023 or 2003, and then 2004 I decided if I can just make enough to replace my income, I can sell my stereo shop. I'll feel comfortable. I can move on. I didn't want to, put myself in a financial position where I
Right.
would, strapped. So in 2004, that summer, I decided to do it. You're gonna love these numbers for marketing, and I sent out 10 letters to foreclosures
A whopping 10. Okay.
and bought 5 houses.
Shut up. I hate you right now. Yeah.
I bought 5 houses. I bought two from one couple, husband and wife. They had 2 houses, one in foreclosure, and then the one they were living in, which wasn't in foreclosure, but it was a nice house, and they were looking to move somewhere else. So I end up with 5 houses under contract. I have no idea what I'm doing.
What am I going to
I'm
do now?
still,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
yeah, 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 yeah. And
If you're a new or newer real estate investor looking to launch or grow your real estate investing business, please check out Investor Fuel Club. It's a coaching community, but unlike anything you've ever seen before. And you can actually partner with members of our mastermind from coast to coast on deals right in your market. There's no better opportunity to build a consistent business than to literally partner with pros to help you avoid costly mistakes, avoid the need for capital to do deals, and help you eliminate your fears as you're starting your business. Learn more about Investor Fuel Club at investorfuel.com/club.
She said yes. Oh no. Now we got to go to the dance. Like, oh, what am I
I've
supposed
told
to
you
do?
that story, right? My first deal I ever did, this guy says yes, and I went, "Oh crap!" like,
And that's-
what do you do? Yeah,
yeah,
I know.
yeah, I
I
had
remember.
no idea.
Yeah,
Yeah. And so I get these, I don't remember which one I bought first now, but I end up, one of them I do a short sale on. Never heard of a short sale before. Never. So I did my first short sale in 2004. Um, and I bought the two houses from the one couple. One was a short sale. They had paid 155 the year before. I got it short sale for 125 the next year. Like like it was crazy. There was no short sale departments or anything like that back
right.
then. So I'm just talking to employees and I'm like, hey, I said, it's not what she says. Well, these loans that we do are backed by individuals, and let me see if this individual wants to, you know, to let go, to will
Yeah,
accept that. It was a bank, but somehow I don't know how they did it back then, but it was individually funded. And so sure enough, they accepted my 125. I turned right around and did a little bit of rehab to it, sold it for 155 and double closed it. Yeah, back then I closed with his funds on a mortgage, a loan, what I couldn't even tell you. But some way or another, it was wild. And so anyway, I end up spending 60 hours doing those 5 deals. I sold 4 of them. I kept one of them as a rental for about a year, which was my least profitable one. It was um, because I bought it wrong, paid too much for it, I guess, at the time. And if I'd held it for a rental for like a year and a half longer, I would have made money on it, a lot of
right.
money. And so in 60 hours in a summer, part time, still running my other business, I made $60,000. I'm like, okay, I'm comfortable now.
This thing's
I
for
was
real.
making
Yeah,
more than that in my car stereo shop, but I was going to have income from selling monthly payments on my stereo shop. I could do this real estate thing on the side. So then I sell it in December. March, I send out a bunch of letters to 5 acre parcels and things like that. Start marketing. Um, I um, and it just blows up. Nobody's marketing to our area back then, 2005. Nobody knows, Swanee County necessarily, uh, for as a wholesale or whatever
right.
deal. And there again, we were talking about earlier, like this is because we're in a small market. There's 10,000 people in my town. There's 44,000 in our whole county.
Right.
So there's 40, but there's also 44,000 parcels of land. And it's not one. That doesn't mean one person owns one piece of property each. You know
Right.
what I'm saying?
Right.
There's a lot of our property over the years has been sold off to people that had the dream of retiring here someday and things like that. And so, um, it was there was some of the properties that we ended up buying through that time where these people had bought it 30 years earlier, paid it off, never been back to the property. They're like, I couldn't even tell you. I can't, if you drove me to the lot, I wouldn't know how to get back home. Like,
Yeah.
they're like, we just don't know where, we have no idea where this at. Um, I sent out, we mistakenly sent out letters to a wrong neighborhood.
Been there, done
And
that.
oops. And it ended up that it was, we were looking for 5 acre tracts because I had lots of buyers for 5 acre tracts at the time. And putting, ended up sending it to a 2 acre parcels, but they were a subdivision 2 acre parcels, but they were all on the river. Didn't know that. So I get the first letter back, and this letter had a tear off at the bottom, so
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah.
The property owner would send it back with the tear off on the bottom or whatever. First one to get back is like, 1 2 acre tract for $110,000. I'm like, 5 acre tracts are not $110,000. At the time, we were buying them for like 3 to 5,000 an acre or something like
Yeah.
that. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, what is somebody lost their mind? They're wanting $110,000 for a 5 acre property. And I realized looked it up, all that, and I'm like, oh no, we totally messed up that whole marketing campaign. And well, next day I get like two more letters, and it's like two lots for $110,000, so 4 acres for 110 on the river. And then like I keep getting these ones. Well, then I get this one that says one lot for, and it was an odd number, like $32,257.37 or whatever. And I'm like, okay, I hope I have that letter somewhere still, actually. Pretty crazy. And anyway, I get this letter and I'm like, why the odd number? That's weird. But $32,000 for these river lots, and this other guy's selling one for 110,000 up the street. Like, there
This is
must be a
something here,
market
maybe.
going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me see what happens. Long story short, I buy it, turn around, and sell it for 125,000, 124,000, something like
And you look like a genius on a
that.
mistake.
Yeah,
That's what I'm talking about.
I know. That's usually the way it works. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, let's be
yeah,
honest. Yeah.
yeah,
Been
yeah.
there.
So
But
that's some of the deals we've done, and then of course we flip houses, we flip mobile homes, we've done some. I own a doctor's office right now that we bought in 2000 and flipped it. Bought it 75, flipped it for 125 in 2002. I bought it back for 125 in 2023, and we've got it marketed for rent right now. It's like 12 office spaces and two
yeah.
separate units,
And that's
4,500
kind of the
square feet.
perk of, we were talking about that a little pre-show, but like because I mean, yes, you live in a small town, right? And I think a lot of us hear small town and they're not like, oh, you can't do anything. But you being local to your market and you do good business, you have a good reputation. You're good. Like I've known you for like I'm being a little biased when I say this, guys, but I've known Quinn. Like there's not better people than Quinn Skierski, okay? But in that reputation has been with you. I mean, not to say you don't make mistakes or stuff like that, but like it it's afforded you the opportunity to kind of into the real estate space as a whole to be able to find where the opportunity is at and navigate appropriately. So maybe it's 12,
Yeah,
it's an office building. It's
absolutely.
a mobile home. It's a raw piece of land. It's a, what have you, but you being that person in your town, it's like, that's a really cool thing. And I just want people to listen. If you're in a smaller area like that, and Quinn, I'll actually have you speak to this, but I want to encourage people that are listening, and maybe you are in a smaller market. Um, I mean, don't start today, like the whole action thing, right? But like, what would you say to that person's in a small town that like they're thinking like, can I do it too?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like I said, I don't see any advantage or disadvantage to be in a small town
Yeah,
when it comes to real estate, because there again, you have more connections, you know more people, you know, you know, specifically, or personally, more people that, and their situations and what's going on. And if you tell a few people, um, in 2004, I didn't have a business card for real estate. Yes. So I pulled out a piece of paper and wrote on it, Quinn Skierski, real estate investor. And I put it in my wallet. That's the day I became a real estate investor. And,
oh
um,
yeah,
that's right. And I would say the same thing for people in a big market. They keep looking at their market like an elephant and they're going to eat the whole thing. Forget that. Go to your neighborhood, or if it's not your neighborhood you can invest in, go to the neighborhood is an investable
that's right.
neighborhood. Go to the neighborhood that has cash buyers in it. Go to the neighborhood. You don't, because I mean, this to be true too, Brett. If you could probably find a couple of neighborhoods close to where you're at, and if we call it farming around here because we're in the
Uh huh.
country, you're gonna farm a neighborhood. That means for those folks that are not raised in an agrarian society like we are, you go out there, you till the ground. You start marketing, you put out a couple of signs, you go talk to the neighbors, you find people, you talk to
Yeah.
realtors, you talk to everybody you can in that one neighborhood. And it's no different in a small market. Start going talk. I talked to And one day last week, I talked to 4 realtors in that one day, and it
Yeah.
was all different conversations,
And you're established at this point, and you're still doing, and that's the beautiful thing is you don't quit talking to people like
Yeah.
routinely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's a must. Nobody's gonna know what you do unless you tell them. I mean, that's
Yeah.
at the end of the day. I get people that still call me every day. I was talking to a elected official last week, and he's like, "Quinn, a lot of people, what do you do again?" I was like, I said, I get that question all the time, and
Yeah.
um, you know, in your markets, and I always say I have 4 funnels that we fill in our business, and that's buyers, sellers, private investors, and people who do what we do. So, I can partner with anybody. The homeless guy on the side of the road, I can partner with. How can I do that? I can give him a "We Buy Houses" sign, and I'll give you $20 to flip this sign all day long for me. So whatever. Like, you can partner with any and everyone when it comes to this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And you know, if you're not marketing your business or yourself, then you don't have a business. You have a hobby,
Hmm.
that nobody knows about, and you might
Yeah.
be the best at it, but nobody's going to know who you are.
Exactly.
So
Let me
I,
ask you this. I want to bring up the 5 Fs. That's what we let off and we talked about. What I know, like when you shared this with me, and we've got like it's really powerful, and we would be very remiss to not have you talk at hopefully like a decently high level. What are the 5 Fs?
right. So, um, the 5 F's are faith, family and friends, finances, fitness, and fulfillment. What's your 500-year goal for your life? And yes, I said 500-year goal for your life, because that's about legacy. It's about your dash and what you're going to leave behind. How do you do that? Faith. My personal goal for faith is connection. I always like to say that's like if I go outside and reach up and grab that power line in my backyard and reach over and grab Brett's hand, he's gonna be he's gonna feel the power and the connectivity. And so that's about connection. So that's what faith is to me, is about connecting with others and connecting to God. You know, um, family and friends, the goal is trust. So how do we build trust? How do we, establish trust? I read a, you know, so I read books on like boundaries and all this kind of stuff. Um, One of the things that we do this inside of the 5 F's is I hire coaches in 5 areas. Can you guess what they are?
Yeah, the 5 Fs.
So I parse my life out into these 5 areas, and I try and put things into columns that they fit in, so that we can put focus on those things. And so it's really just a focus thing. My wife and I next week we'll be married 31 years. Um, we still see a counselor. Last Friday we drove to Gainesville. We seen a counselor. We 2 hours. We Now we didn't always do that. So this started about 5 years ago when I started hiring coaches in
You're
the,
treating it like coaching and growth versus I'm struggling and I need therapy. And I think you have coaches for everything, right? Everybody does, but why not for our marriages? I think that's powerful. Yeah.
I always say it this way: you would never let your kids play on a soccer team that didn't have a coach.
Yeah.
Why are we going through life without a coach? Without
Yeah.
some kind of you know someone else? Because the things you'll say to a coach, you won't talk about just in a general conversation typically,
Yep.
because
Yep.
it's a specific, we're here for a reason.
Yep.
And so I have a faith coach that I work with. I have a family and friends coach that we work with, which is our counselor. um the and then a personal financial coach. And so people are always, how do you find a coach? Well, I have 2 rules for finding coaches. They must come recommended by someone who that has used them. And then the second thing is they must have a coach themselves. A coach without a coach is a teacher.
Mm.
Teachers have their place. Not saying nothing, no shade on teachers. Just the facts are, a coach is there to take you from where you are up to where you want to be. and they just they bridge that gap for you.
Yeah.
Um, and they're a very specific point. So I found my finance coach on Dave Ramsey's website. I interviewed, posted it there, interviewed 3 people. I hired most of my coaches I hired in 2019, and
Okay.
most of them I'm still with them.
Very cool.
And so the reason I say a personal financial coach is because and especially the reason I say hire your finance coach first. Out of all coaches, get a finance coach first. The reason being is because if especially if you're married, if you and your significant other cannot sit down and talk about the black and white of finances, it's going to be very difficult to talk about relationship stuff.
Mm.
So this helps you break through some of those nuances that are going to come up in the relationship stuff, or may not come in, depending on your relationship. For me, being able to open that up about the personal finances made it a lot easier to talk about the other stuff. It was a real
Sure.
good training ground for talking about personal stuff. And then I have fitness coaches, which I've hired several over the years. I have a doctor that does longevity. And so that doctor pulls my blood every 6 months. We have conversations about the results. He, you know, he make he makes he requires that I take vitamins. You know what I'm saying? He checks my panels
Yeah.
and says,
Yeah.
"Hey, you're deficient in D3. Get your D3 up. You're not getting enough sunlight. You're not getting this." And he makes recommendations for those things. I'm not talking about your regular family doctor. I'm talking about you need a coach doctor that says, "Hey, Quinn, you want to live to be 80 and be healthy? I'm going to mark your panels now." And some of that came from Tim Ferriss's stuff. He talks about the
Yep.
4 Hour Body and things like that. And he calls himself the human guinea pig. He spent $250,000 on, And so I started taking then some of those mental notes, and like, hey, we need to have health as a priority in my life, because I'm the guy who I wouldn't eat lunch. I wouldn't eat breakfast. I wouldn't eat lunch. I wouldn't, not that some people don't do that. There's different ways, but I remember my wife, uh, she had a kidney stone, had to go in the emergency room middle of the night, and it's like 3 or 4 in the morning. We get to the ER, and everybody knows us there, of course. Yeah, yeah. And they're taking her blood, and I pass out, and so everybody in the room go rush it over to me, and I was like, I look over at Cindy, and I'm like, "Hey, did I pass out?" She's like, "Yes." "Get my
Yeah.
mother in here
Yeah.
now." And I was like, "Oh my gosh." And they're like, slapping me. "Are you okay? What happened?" And they're like, "When was the last time you ate? Or what did you have to eat last?" And I was like, "Oh, shoot. Let me see. Some cheese nachos from the convenience store that was the only thing I had, like 48 hours. I just didn't take care of myself.
Yeah.
And so, things like that. And then the fulfillment coaches are that they handle like my life insurance and things like that. And then of course I wrote a book about it for my granddaughter to explain all this, called Luli and the Family Tree. And so
Which I've read, by the way,
it's about
guys.
yes, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I realize now when authors send you a book and you don't read it, how it's kind of like, "Oh, man, I really want to ask," but
Yeah. Right.
I
Are you
appreciate you reading it. Yeah.
what did you think? Was it? I hated it though, right? It was the worst thing I've ever seen.
I know, right? It's like,
No,
thanks.
it's.
Yeah, yep.
I wanted you to bring that up because I was gonna ask you if you didn't. Before you even say anything about it, like one of the coolest things of my reading that was the idea, the articulation to it's not just you and your children. Now it's your grandchildren, Quinn, and that to me is you were speaking to legacy, the 500 year. That's speaking to legacy, and on this side of heaven, you get to put that out there to your granddaughter. Holy stinking, that's the coolest, because everything you said on your 5 Fs that I grab a hold of on a personal note for me, it is the individual. It's about what we're doing because what we do carries weight that affects generational, you know. And I think I don't know how you got hold of that vision or what you did, But from somebody that watches you from afar, I'm like, I look up to that. And I see that. And that's really why I wanted you to talk about this on the show today, is because I'm like, I want people to be able to, I don't know, like I always ask this, how do people connect with you, man? Like, what's the way that they can do that? Because they need to follow that journey. Because like I get the privilege of, we don't live we're within an hour of each other, man. Like I get the privilege of, I know you. But if somebody doesn't, how do they connect with you?
Yeah, I'm the only Quinn Skierski in the world, first of all. I'm easy to find. But all social media, I'm on, X, Facebook, Instagram.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, connect on there. I'm actually working on uh having a place for the book, a specific, website or something that because my goal right now is to, more or less to give the book away in a,
Mm-hmm.
because I think it's a you know I really feel the impact of what it is. I've got a friend that we've known since we were teenagers, and she says we hadn't seen each other in a while. They had moved away and then she had moved back, and we were talking one day and she goes, I want you to come by the house sometime. I was like, my wife and I were going to pick up her and her husband for dinner or something, and because we hadn't seen them. And she leads me into this back room of their house, which is like the she shed room, but it's their office kind of area on the back side of their house. And she had, the big notepad paper, like that size.
Mm-hmm.
She had each one of the F's laid out along a 20-foot wall. She had the 5 F's above it. She had five, large, I think it was the it was the those scribbly boards or whatever. And she had her goals for each one of the 5 F's inside of there. And I was like, that was the first time I realized, like, oh my goodness, like, uh-oh, like this might be real. You know,
Yeah.
this might be something that, would help other people. And like last week I shared it with a guy, and I was at a event for the weekend on real estate investing stuff, and I met a guy there, and he called me yesterday, I think it was, and he's like, man, I appreciate you sharing the 5Fs with me in our little at breakfast that morning. He was sitting there by himself. He's like, hey, you want to sit with me? And I'm like, sure. And I shared it with him, and he's like, I'm having my personal assistant, my office girl, she's gonna print out the 5Fs for me, and I'm gonna put it over my desk because it's, I want to focus on this. I want this to be, I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I think this thing's bigger than what I think it is. I just hadn't figured all that out yet, but I do believe that it's something that it impacts people. It helps people focus, on a framework that's easy to, understand.
Yep. It's really powerful, man. And we could obviously dive this all day and talk about it and we have before, we've spent hours talking, but guys, you've seen, like, follow him on social media. He, like you said, he's the only Quinn Skierski on in the world,
Literally.
I'm serious. Like, he's worth following in this, guys, and reach out. Quinn, man, you've been the best. I wish we could keep talking. But unfortunately we have to let people, tune us out, tune into something else maybe. Right. But no, I really appreciate you being on the show. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah. Well, I'd be glad to come back anytime if we get if there's something specific people want to hear about or whatever, then yeah, that would be awesome. But,
most definitely. Well, guys, until the next show, subscribe, do all the things we're supposed to do. Follow Quinn, and everybody take care. We'll see you on the next one.
All right.
Thanks for joining us for today's Real Estate Pros Show. You can learn more about the amazing benefits of the Investor Fuel Mastermind community, including surrounding yourself with hundreds of other rock stars, 100% financing for your deals, and members-only discounts from vendors you're likely already using that, as a member of Investor Fuel, will save you more than the cost of your membership. Visit investorfuel.com to learn more. If you're interested in joining us as a guest of this show, please visit investorfuel.com/pros to apply. You can also check the show notes for access to free resources, how to get access to world-class lead generation, and much more. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another episode. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next show.